And now, your official TigerBait Postgame show with Mike Scarborough and Preston Guy starts now.
All right, guys. Happy New Year. Big LSU win. BK gets 10 wins for his first two seasons at LSU, 10 wins each year. And I don't know what more you could have expected from Garrett Nussmeier in his first start at LSU. Big stage, New Year's Day, gets the start. It was everything that I think he needed to do to put some confidence in the fan base going into the offseason. So big kudos to him. The defense was as a mess as all year long, but boy, what a defensive stand there at the end of the football game to put it away and seal the deal after Garrett Nussmeier had drove LSU 98 yards for the winning touchdown drive. So it wasn't pretty at times. A lot of grumbling at halftime. Text messages flying pretty nastily in the first half between myself and friends and other media people. But they found a way to get it done. And now we wait to see what's going to happen the rest of the way, what changes are going to be made on defense. And so we're going to have all those debates and a lot of that discussion on this show tonight and or this late afternoon. And so, Preston, give us your thoughts. Your mic. There you go.
Yeah, y'all thought I was just breathing real quiet today. Nah. So Nussmeier stepping in for Jaden Daniels and throwing for 400 yards in his first start. That's nothing to bat an eye at. And of course, the clutch gene was there for him as well. He 98-yard, 8-play drive, game-winning touchdown with 3 minutes to go. I mean, you were backed into a corner most of this game, and Nussmeier played very well. Thought the receivers played very well. Now, that being said, I'm not saying Nussmeier was perfect. I'm not saying he was better than Jaden Daniels.
No, he wasn't
like that. But
he wasn't, Preston. But look, man, for a first start, and look, I'm a guy who's had my doubts, as you know, about Garrett. I don't know what more you could have expected for a guy in his first start to look like that.
No, and that's exactly what you wanted to see going into next year, was just an impressive outing. Now, early in the game on third down, he had some bad reads, right? He missed a wide open Kyron Lacey on a drag route for a first down on a third down drive. Threw it to Brian Thomas, 20 yards downfield and sailed him. Just was inaccurate. And then on another play, he missed Aaron Anderson in the flats on 3rd and 2. And instead takes a check down where it's tackled for either no gain or a loss. So there were some kinks in the armor today for Nussmeier. It was not a perfect outing. I don't think anybody with a reasonable expectation said, go out there and be perfect. I was a little disappointed in the running game. They only ran for 97 yards on 25 carries. I would have liked to see more of Caleb Jackson, who got 3 touches and got 28 yards on those 3. So the guy who's averaging 9 yards a touch, let's limit him to 3 touches. I didn't really like that. But overall, it looked nice, and I liked the play selection from Joe Sloan overall. There was, again, some things I didn't like, but overall, it was good.
Third downs throwing short of the stick. I still don't like some of the routes they have Aaron Anderson on. That deep ball to Aaron Anderson when he's 5'7", and he's doubled up with a safety rolling over for triple coverage.
Yep, on third down.
That's not the route for Aaron Anderson. That's just not, and look, that's kind of stuff, though, that you'll get right in the offseason when you know who your guys are. When Kyron Lacey went down with looked like might have been a bad knee, and it ended up not being, thank God.
Ooh.
Boy, the look on Garrett Nussmeier's face, because that's going to be one of his bread and butter guys for next football season, and had him real worried that that might have been a very serious knee injury. But overall, the offense looked fine. Defense, of course, typical of what they've been all year long. But, when they decided to bring some pressure at the end of the game to put it away, look what happened. And so Jefferson and Wingo and Mason Smith,
stepped up.
They got it done.
5 sacks today.
Yeah.
The defense has
been, you got more than half of them on the last drive.
The defense has been nothing but if consistent this year, just consistently awful. I don't think I remember seeing a defense where there was not any moments where you're like, well, that was impressive. I mean, unless you want to count a shutout against Army. Okay. But today they did make some plays against the 92nd ranked passing offense who passed for 378 yards on you, but that we'll say some nice things. They had 5 sacks on their final drive. Their final drives were a punt, a field goal, a punt, and fourth down on down, turnover on downs, final drive. So they did just enough to give you a chance to win the game. I'll say this: they gave up 31 points and 506 yards, and it was actually worse than it looks on paper. But at this point, your bar is set so low for this defense, Mike. I know that the read we've been getting is that House very well may be retained. Man, I don't see how you can't make wholesale changes on this defense, like big changes. This defense doesn't have a pulse. And if we're looking at if we're being honest about the team today, the team was not very good overall. Yes, the offense looked good, but the defense is still atrocious, and that averages out to pretty bad. If
my thought on
with that defense, Mike,
my take on whether Matt House is retained or not hasn't changed in probably 3 months. I don't think my take today is any different than it was in mid-October. And what it is that I think Brian Kelly has faith in Matt House as a coach, X's and O's, and is giving him all the benefits of the doubt because of Jim's and Joe's, some deficiencies on his defensive staff. And remember, everybody but one of them were not, except one, and Jimmy Lindsay, who's not on the field, were not hired by Matt House. They were there when he arrived from the Chiefs. So I think there's some of that. Now, what has made me think that if Matt House were to hit the road or end up finding a job elsewhere would be because the perception angle of it more than Brian Kelly's actual faith in Matt House. The fact that, man, as bad as it looked, how do you recruit to that? Whatever he might be looking at.
Well, he's recruiting.
We know what we're saying.
McKinley last night.
Yeah, we know what we're saying. But look, again, 2 10-wins seasons in his first 2 years. When he inherited how many?
39 scholarship players. From
39 scholarship players. It is what it is. And I saw one of the comments that we haven't got to yet talking about how the SEC network has been a propaganda arm for the Alabama football program. And I get it. And you want to be in the mix in the discussion for the elite teams, and you're not in the playoff talk, and it's been wall to wall. Even during your own bowl game, you're seeing promos for Alabama and Michigan, et cetera. I get it. But he inherited a true dumpster fire, and look how he's gotten to 10 wins and a Heisman Trophy winner.
20-7 Heisman Trophy winner, SEC West champs. You've beaten Alabama once.
Right.
I mean, that's truly an impressive. No one, when Brian, after looking at that bowl game, seeing what Brian Kelly inherited, thought he was going to win 20 games in 2 years. And I think he's exceeded expectations by quite a bit. That being said, let's be fair. Let's be objective. Boy, Brian Kelly has some work cut out for him this offseason. Because again, what we saw today was not a great football team. That's not a top 10 football team we're looking at next year. I think that team, if they roll that team out there, we could be talking about 7-5, 8-4. I'm not saying that's what it is going to be, because I mean, we know how much work is about to go down in the next few days. They're going to do a bunch of reworking of the staff. Terry Bussey is still on the table, but we'll just have to see what goes on with Harry Bussey. You got some work to do. And then, of course,
I get the feeling I get the feeling Bussey is going to stay put. We'll see. But
recruits were pushing hard for him last night.
In the next few days, I told somebody yesterday, and that's why you want to be a subscriber to TigerBait. We're going to be sending out I could be wrong, and maybe it takes this whole week is kind of slow, and then it all erupts after the next weekend. There is an extension for transfer portal. I think I'm sticking with my reporting weeks ago that everybody on the defensive line is coming back. But the rumors of a new defensive line coach, a new cornerbacks coach, is that going to happen within 72 hours? Does it take a week? If Matt House is kept, but does all of a sudden he land an NFL job in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever it ends up being, we're going to see how this plays out. But it's going to be interesting. And I tend to think this is when the stuff's with all the stuff that is going to be happening with LSU between guys announcing whether they're staying, and I think there's going to be a ton of guys saying they're staying. I don't know that there's going to be any surprises on the roster of guys saying that they're going out that you didn't think were already going out, and vice versa.
Right.
So it's going to be the coaching part of it, and so it's going to be, I think, an interesting next several weeks, and then it'll open back up. You'll start having some official visits. We'll see how many they may or may not add. Obviously, you had a big signing day a couple of weeks ago, and but it's going to be interesting. All right, let's get to some comments, guys. If you're enjoying the show, and gals, please hit that like button if you're enjoying the show, and very much appreciative. Devin Johnson, right off the bat with a super chat, says Happy New Year. Has BK hit his ceiling at LSU? Preston was joking with me before we went live that some people were giving him some taking some pot shots at me in his Twitter feed, X feed. Because
don't call it X feed, for the love of God. It's Twitter. I swear to God, you freaking Gen Z kids.
Because with the rumors 7 to 10 days ago about Michigan, and if Harbaugh were to leave, that BK would be who they come get, and because I said it wouldn't be the end of the world if BK left,
his stock's high.
I swear to God, man, and you guys know it. You guys watching, I can post something on our Tiger Den Premium board. I can say something here on a different radio show, and it's amazing how it can make its way to message boards. And it's the typical telephone game where after it's been switched around and different words added to it, it's totally different than what I said. So, all right, that's enough on that.
I'm just gonna say real quick. I want to address that. Has he brought Bryce Underwood in yet? Has he brought Harlem Berry in yet? What about Decorian Moore? I don't think he's hit a ceiling because, he hasn't had a chance to bring in his players and do his thing yet. Now we're going to start seeing that.
Preston, the first guy you mentioned is why I think Joe Sloan's going to be named OC.
I think that Sloan did a pretty good job. By the way, the very next question asked Mike, how do you grade Joe Sloan today? I think Joe Sloan did well today. I didn't like the 4th and 1 call where they ran. I don't like using Josh Williams as a goal line back, especially when you've got Noah Kane, who specializes that, and Caleb Jackson, who's a little muscle hamster. I don't know why you're going with, and look, tremendous respect for what Josh Williams has done at LSU. One of the best blocking backs I've ever seen. Great receiver out of the backfield. I don't think he's your 4th and 1 back. He's 5'9". Use him.
Preston, if you're going to go there, if you're going to go there, I'm going to go a little further. Why are you going to Harold Perkins?
Apparently, he's a good goal line back.
When you've got Caleb Jackson there.
Apparently, Harold Perkins is a dude. He did the job. He got a touchdown. So apparently, they saw
my first thought of that might have been part of an NIL negotiation
to give him a touchdown.
Yeah.
He looked good doing it, so I have no complaints. Now,
look, one of the things we knew in recruiting was that multiple guys that I trust in the state of Texas that have covered recruiting for decades, a lot of them thought that Perkins was the best running back in the state of Texas coming out of high school.
He was an absolute beast. And there was a lot of talk that in fact, I think he switched numbers before the Florida State game in 2022 so that he could be eligible to play running back. He was like wearing a number that wouldn't be eligible. So he switched it just in case, because they were so thin at running back. I liked the triple reverse, flea flicker call. Although Nussmeier, the tosses didn't go quite as well as you would have wanted, and he threw it off balance and it went out of bounds by like 8 or 9 yards. But if you look at it, I forget who the receiver was on it, but he was wide open in the back of the end zone. Loved that creativity. There were some things I liked and things I didn't. I think they'll be fine if they go with Joe Sloan. I think he's proven that he can do the job. Put horse up for sale now. Oh, house up for sale now.
Take the reins, Preston.
All right, gotcha. I'm gonna roll through a few comments here, guys. Let's see here. So, if they don't fire this whole defensive coaching staff, it will be a tragedy. I'm not gonna say the whole staff, but I tend to believe, and Mike's on a different page as me on House. I think as bad as this defense has been, everybody involved has done a bad job. And I refuse to believe that an elite coordinator with even a team that was lacking talent like LSU was can't do better than what we saw this year. I tend to believe you need to see some big changes. That being said, if you want to keep a guy or two in place, I do understand that. But let's put it like this. I would be more in favor of dumping the whole defensive staff than keeping the whole defensive staff. I think you're going to have some serious problems if you keep the whole thing in place. Dane Bergeron, consistent listener of the show, says, Happy New Year, Mike and Preston. Thank you,
Happy
Dane.
New Year.
Thank you for always watching and supporting our show. Let's see here. And look, James Moore brings up a really good point here. So I brought up that Wisconsin was the 92nd ranked passing offense, and they threw for 378 on you. That alone is inexcusable. But let's read his Mike. This game shouldn't have been close with all the Wisconsin players opting out or transferred. Just go to show you how terrible that defense is. BK has to make a move. James, I'm right there with you, dog. Right there, man. Look, 92nd ranked passing offense. Tanner Mordecai diced you for 400 yards just about. And that's before they had 5 players opting out. They had 2 receivers, their starting running back, and 2 offensive linemen opting out for this game. Now, I don't know exactly how good all those players are. I haven't done a ton of film on them and whatnot, but at the same time, their numbers were thin and they made you look like a joke. That's just inexcusable in my mind. I think outside of the 2020 defense, this has been the worst defense I've ever seen at LSU. Outside of 2020, I do think 2020 was better, but even the 2020 defense had its moments where you're like, well, okay, they did all right that game. I think Texas A&M, they limited them to 20 or something like that. This defense didn't have a moment like that. Not against a team you take seriously. Not to mention the 2020 defense didn't have out of conference games to fluff those numbers up. So I think they gave up like 100 yards more per game, but I'm still going to say the 2020 was worse because it was a COVID year and lots of stuff was going down. Let's see here.
Chance Babin, go back, Preston. He'd asked about how do I grade Sloan today. I think new quarterback, big stage, first time starter, a guy that you would think probably would be real, letting some sail. And certainly there was some balls early on, but overall, I think that offense did what it needed to do. And the defense again made things a little bit, put the offense even, more on the spotlight than it needed to be. If you had a defense, I think Nussmeier and company, probably would not have needed to do as much, definitely. But I think Sloan, if BK makes the move and elevates Tim to offensive coordinator, I don't know that anybody's going to have any reservations about it. Anything post Jaden Daniels is going to be a step down, and is going to be a new era. And so I think Joe Sloan's earned the right to be either the heavy favorite or the guy to outright get the job.
I think it's the latter. And let's put it like this. You're down your Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. You're playing a top 30 defense or around a top 30 defense. It's close, if not. And you're playing with Malik Neighbors, who somehow Brian Kelly claims he pulled him out once he broke the record, but Malik Neighbors, you're possibly, one of your top 5 receivers in school history. You pull him after what, 3 series, and you still hung 492 yards and 35 points on Wisconsin. Impressive overall. I can't give him a grade below a B. That being said, and Mike, I want you to tell me if I'm wrong, if you notice something. I didn't notice anything too discernibly different from what we would be seeing from a Mike Denbrock game. What do you think?
I didn't.
I couldn't tell the difference.
No.
And I'll say one thing on paper that stands out: a lot more people touched the ball. Brian Thomas, 8 grabs. Mason Taylor got a lot more involved, 7 grabs for 88 yards. Kyron Lacey, 6 grabs. Chris Hilton, 3 grabs, which, by the way, nice to see that. Remember that fall camp connection between Chris Hilton and Garrett Nussmeier? That was just, it seemed like every play, man, those two were connecting. We saw that again today. Malik Neighbors, 3 grabs. Josh Williams even had 3 grabs. And of course, Caleb Jackson had his 1 catch. I mean, that's 7 players who caught the ball today. That's much more involved than what we have seen most of the year. So maybe that, but I mean, I honestly don't think Mike Denbrock makes any difference today. I really don't. I'm not bashing him as a coach. I'm not saying he was overrated or anything like that. That's not the kind of guy I am. I'm just telling you what I saw today. I think to put up 500 yards.
Well, the fact of the matter is, whether it's Denbrock or Joe Sloan, this is Brian Kelly's offense.
Right.
And now when he was at Cincinnati under Fickell, I think it was probably more of Denbrock's offense. But when he came back to LSU, he was working within Brian Kelly's offense. And look, what was different? You didn't have Jaden Daniels' legs, and
right. That was very
other than that, you didn't see anything that led you to believe that there was someone else in the press box running the show.
Absolutely. Now, look, we got to put this comment up here from Josh Forbes. Chef Preston is one of the X greats. All right, in that context, I'll allow X to be used. There's my new Twitter handle, by the way. After 15 years or whatever, the guy who had P Guy 77 finally gave up on it. So no more underscore. Brian Russell's just straight up bring me Lane Kiffin. He's ready to hop on the Lane train, Mike.
Well, what are the expectations going to be in Oxford next football season?
Sky high.
And that is going to be a big game for LSU next season. Ole Miss at home. When you look at that schedule, and we know what we're talking about, what
oh boy,
regardless of who's the DC and what new coaches you have on defense, I will say this, and I've told you and other friends of mine and media people, if you catch me during the off season, regardless of who's brought in to coach what position on defense, if you have me all of a sudden acting like we're about to see a version of the '85 Bears defense, just because of new coaches that are brought in, when you've got so many returning starters, I'm sorry. I think this defense is still going to have some issues. I think the DBs will be better just because of the talent that's coming in, what you're going to get back from injury. Look, you're going to have to, if you make a move on House, you better bring in someone who's got a philosophy of bringing some pressure. Because if not, I think you're going to still see some of the issues that you've seen.
Yeah, and I'll say this about the whole pressure thing. I mean, even when they got pressure, unless you get them on the ground, these DBs on bad aired throws, they're on coverage and they just can't find the ball. I mean, you got to do some big changes. And by the way, this schedule next year for LSU is nasty. We got Ole Miss, who's looking like it might be a top 5 team next year. Alabama ain't going nowhere. They're on your schedule. You've got UCLA and USC next year, right? And then you throw on Oklahoma. Comes on your schedule next year. That right there is just a murderer's row. I mean, absolutely brutal. I do like the way the cookies crumble for that schedule when you get the teams, where you get them. But there's nothing you can do to soften how tough that schedule is. Brian Russell with a super chat right after that. So he's going to get a 2-for-1 here. Where the hell was Perkins on defense? No way this defense runs this back. Your best defensive player on offense, a travesty. Unbelievable. Well, at least they got at least the defensive players are making plays from one of the coordinators, right? Yeah, I mean, I do know Perkins walked away from the game in a sling on his left arm. So I'm wondering if he got banged up and they kept him off the field for a decent amount of time. I did see a couple plays where he was rushing the passer, didn't get there, but he was rushing. He had 4 tackles today. But again, I think that they didn't quite use Perkins all year the way they should have. I think he's a very talented player, and he looks very mundane with the way they're using him. So I think that that's part of when we talk about the coordinators and who's out there on defense. I do think there's some talent in some spots on this defense that isn't being put in a position to be successful, and that's why I think it's a bit of a reflection on the defensive coaching. What about you, Mike? You don't think there's any milk in his face?
Say it one more time. What are you asking me?
I'm asking, when you see players like Harold Perkins, right, struggling, not being as productive. I mean, there's obvious talent with Harold Perkins. You don't think that's a reflection on Matt House at all?
I still think they're trying to make him a traditional linebacker, and that's still gonna take some more time. I just don't think he's there yet.
Yeah, maybe so.
You're either going to play to his strengths and just bring him as a specialty rusher. He's still learning to be a true linebacker, and that was one of the things we knew coming out of high school was that it might take him a while to become a collegiate linebacker, but with his athleticism, what he did as a true freshman, and basically won on his own the Arkansas game and was a big part of your win over Alabama and many others. But that, is that what makes him a complete linebacker? And I still think that he's a work in progress when it comes to that.
I do too. I just think that there's coaching to get you to become that, right? Like the talent is there. Can he run fast? Yes. Is he athletic? Yes. Can he move well? Does he have good react? All these things, check those boxes. Well, guess what? He's been in your program for 2 years. Coach him into becoming a good linebacker. And look, here's a good comment that kind of goes hand in hand with that. Happy New Year, Mike and Preston. I think the defensive coaching neglected to coach the basics the entire year. Part of it is the player's motivation, a big challenge in the NIL era. I do think they neglected to coach the basics. You see that when you see so many missed tackles. Think about one of those early touchdowns where basically the receiver catches the equivalent of a slant route, maybe a deep slant, but whatever, and breaks 2 tackles and he's off to the races and there's no one around him. I mean, the tackling alone is such a reflection of poor basics coaching, right? I've said this a few times. In next fall camp, spring football, whatever it may be, look, if you see a couple more injuries on the defensive side of the ball because they're doing more tackling than they did last year, I'm fine with that. These guys need to tackle in a bad way. They need to learn how to tackle. We didn't see it all year, all 13 games. Did not see good tackling out of this team. Now, whether or not NIL plays a factor in that, I don't know. I think NIL is something that makes players more focused on themselves when it comes to making decisions like whether or not to play. They start to recognize that they make business decisions, but I don't know if they're out there playing like do NFL athletes work less hard? Are NFL athletes less focused on their team because they're making money? I think that's a bit of an old argument that's been debunked 1,000 ways. I mean, I don't think money makes you less good at football. I think that's a bit of a silly argument, but I do think it makes players make personal decisions in terms of whether they play or not or whatever, draft stock, that kind of stuff. All right.
Go ahead and grab some more comments, Preston,
Yeah.
and probably need to talk about one of our big sponsors, Spector, as well.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and knock Spector Sports art out of the way first. And guys, if you can see the artwork behind me, that's because artist Jordan Spector has been kind enough to sponsor our show this year. Guys, he designs his art in a way that really catches the eyes of anybody who walks into your man cave, home, living room, wherever it may be. But it's really the details that's going to keep the attention of any Tiger fan in place. I think about the Dylan Cruz piece behind me. It's named 7 for LSU's 7th baseball championship. Things like his cleats are golden for the Golden Spikes Award. He's got the puzzle piece on his wristband that represents his work with the Cruz crew, helping disabled children come see baseball games. Excellent stuff. He really tells a story with his artwork that a lot of people don't. And because he tells this story like no other artist does, the athletes themselves are buying these pieces and hanging them in their own man cave. Dylan Cruz, guess what? He bought that piece and stuck it in his man cave. In fact, I got a picture of it right here. You can see in the top right-hand corner, there's Dylan Cruz with Jordan Spector putting the original in his man cave. The Joe Burrow piece, Joe Burrow's parents own that. Guys, it's good artwork. It's available in quality prints or canvas in a variety of sizes to fit any room or any budget, right? Artwork is straight from box to your wall, ready to go. So look, y'all see the link behind me. The link is in the description of the video. Make sure to go check out spectorsportsart.com/the Bayou, and make sure to use our promo code TigerBait10 to get 10% off your first set order. Guys, this is artwork. I've got it all over my man cave, all over my studio, as you can see behind me. You're not going to regret this. All right, let's see if we can get some comments here. All right, let's see here. Scrolling down a little bit. Here's a good change of pace here. Abby Celestine. Did I get his name right, Mike? You tell me. Celestine. I hate to say it.
Celestine.
Celestine. Ooh, you might be right. Oh man. All right, Abby, we'll follow up with us in a bit. I hate to say it, but Bama is going to destroy overrated Michigan. I've been talking to people about this. Number one,
Alabama's going to win the national championship, but I'm pulling from Michigan.
Oh, Mike. And I can't help but notice the drop off in offensive production since Connor Stallions was terminated at Michigan. That being said, the body of work that Michigan has put together, I think they're a better football team than Alabama. My brain tells me Michigan. You know what my gut tells me? Alabama, big. I think like 31-14. That's what my gut is telling me. Now, I don't know if Alabama wins it all, but it wouldn't surprise me. It just is it's the signature move of the Nick Saban era, is right when everybody says, well, the dynasty is dead. Nick Saban's too old. This guy can't play quarterback. They don't have any offensive playmakers. They stink. They're done. What does he go? But goes off and wins a national title again. It would be poetic in the most Nick Saban of ways if he went on to win it. I just can't say that I see that happening because everybody likes to, yes, they beat Georgia. I get that. But I can't get out of my mind that they needed a Hail Mary to beat Auburn the week before that. They've definitely had their struggles here and there. I don't think Bama is the best team in the country. So brain telling me Michigan, gut telling me Alabama. Is that a cop out? Whatever. Might be. Let's see.
There's that what Alabama and Nick Saban do in postseason, and we've kind of seen it a little bit in SEC versus Big Ten and bowl games. And I don't know. You give Nick Saban that much time to prepare, and I think it's going to be Alabama, but I sure am hoping Michigan gets it.
Brian, sorry there. Brian Russell says, can't say I'm impressed with Nuss. I don't know. Was he perfect today? I was impressed with him by a lot. I mean, he threw for 400 yards, guys.
I was impressed.
I was very impressed with him. I was thinking, I was like, man, he's probably going to have a big day and throw for like 250 or something like that. That's what I was thinking. I didn't expect what he did.
And I agree with Hal. What's he going to do in the off season?
Right.
Does he put in the work? He saw what Jaden Daniels did in the off season with Malik and Thomas. He's going to need to do the same with Kyron Lacey and Shelton Sampson and Kyle Parker and everybody else that's going to be there. Aaron Anderson. Those guys create a rapport with one another. And I think the LSU offense is going to be one of your better offenses in the nation again. I don't believe it's going to put up crazy numbers like it did under Jaden Daniels, but I still think it's going to be prolific. The question is the defense. The schedule is obviously going to be tougher. And look, and there's still the worry for me that if something were to happen to Nussmeier injury-wise early in the season, to me, that's where you really it's scary. I know you go in the portal and you get a guy, but I don't know that I don't see anybody that's there with experience or that I don't view as too young that can navigate that schedule if Nussmeier had to miss multiple games or knock on wood suffered a season-ending injury early.
I don't think AJ Swan is too young.
I just think he's a guy. I just don't see him being a difference maker that can win you a bunch of games.
I agree. I think he's a guy who, if Nussmeier takes an injury, he's a guy who go in and manage the game for you. All right. Because he's got that experience in the SEC. I would be concerned.
Especially if you might still have a defense that's not salty and that can get some stops in games against SEC opponents that are either as talented as you or not much less.
If you lose Nussmeier, before you brought in AJ Swan, if you lose Nussmeier, you're basically at where you were in 2008 when you kicked Perilou off the team and you've got a redshirt freshman and a freshman. And that's it. And they're both guys who were relatively highly recruited, but neither one of them were like 5-star all-world beaters that, if you have to plug them in as a true freshman, you're kind of excited about that. Like a Bryce Underwood, right? But both of them relatively highly recruited. And I know a lot of people are excited about Colin Hurley to see what he can do. He just threw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns in his all-star game. But, he will be 16 years old when he steps on campus this month. So temper expectations. He's just a kid. And don't be surprised if it takes him, if his learning curve is a little sharper than it normally is for a quarterback. If he's able to go out there and lead this team at 17 years old, that would be shocking to me.
Guys, if you're enjoying the show, please hit that like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do. And hit the subscribe button, that notification bell. We've got a lot. I look at our analytics. I think we're averaging 3 or 4 uploads a day. And now with as we turn to the new year, basketball season, baseball season, you're a month away. Spring football will be here before you know it. So a lot coming your way on TigerBait.com, a lot of recruiting as well. And so YouTube's free. Hit that subscribe button and notification bell. And I also want to talk about Koala Insulation of Koala of Baton Rouge. Nobody does it better than the team at Koala Insulation of Baton Rouge, your residential commercial energy efficiency experts. Tim DeSell and his crew provide not only help that can reduce your energy bills, but also maintain a more comfortable living environment and help reduce airborne allergens, water condensation issues, wear and tear on your HVAC system, and even lengthen the life of your roof shingles. The Koala team provides existing homeowners with a doctor's diagnosis of your home's energy efficiency and can offer several strategies to help you stay more comfortable and save money on energy bills all year long. What they do in your attic, it can save you a ton of money with spray foam insulation that encapsulates encapsulating foam. So give them a call today, 225-457-1001. That's 225-457-1001. And tell them you heard about them on TigerBait.com, and they're going to give you 7% off on your project. And look, you know what we suffered through last summer with 105-degree temperatures, multiple days, more than you would have liked. This is where koala can come in. If you keep your home set on 72 degrees, with the work they can do in your attic will never get more than 75. And all of a sudden you get your energy bill at the end of the month and or at the end of the year, and you're going to see all the savings and earn your money back in a quick period of time. So give Koala a call and get that done and be prepared for the coming warm months. Obviously we don't stay cool here very long. All right. See some more comments we need to get to, Preston?
Yeah, I do. I have one. I did want to talk about our channel growth just for a second, just thanking everybody for what they've done. Mike, if you had to guess, how many subscribers do you think we added in 2023? I've got the number right in front of me.
8,000.
How about 9,000? 9,000 subscribers added in 2023. Remember before the season, we were talking about our goal of, we like set a crazy goal. It's like, let's see if we can get to 25,000 subscribers before January. We're almost at 26,000. So, and we thought that was crazy. So appreciate all of y'all for subscribing. I believe that makes us the largest LSU YouTube channel, but I don't know. There could be one out there, but appreciate y'all for doing all y'all do. If you aren't subscribed, go ahead and hit that button. Do yourself a favor. Be a part of one of the largest growing crowds. That being said, I do have a good comment here. Todd Davis, he's excited about Dominic McKinley.
Yeah.
I heard LSU was doing some
11 o'clock last night. He decided to flip his commitment.
At about 10 a.m. yesterday, I got my phone started buzzing with some people from the Acadiana area saying they were hearing something was going on there. I didn't think it would be that night, but yeah, 11 p.m. at night, he pulls the trigger. I almost wonder, was that a typo with the kid he put out his graphic with? Did he mean to do it at midnight? But guys, stay tuned with recruiting. It's a great time to subscribe to TigerBait.com.
That was a nice pickup. Like Preston said last night, 9 out of 10 from the state of Louisiana.
Oh, yeah. It hasn't been done, by the way.
Several networks have Dominic is a 5-star. I have him as a high 4. Regardless, that is a significant pickup. When you have defensive linemen in the state of Louisiana, you need to keep them home. And look, whatever happens with Jimmy Lindsay, whether he stays on as an analyst or whatever, and like I said on our show the other night, talked to him in practice. Guy looks fantastic, and hopefully he continues to progress. But he had a big hand in getting Dominic McKinley and recruiting others, along with others on the staff. So big credit to them. And as you can see, I put Music's comment up on it. You want to talk about the guy who's been sending us the Nussbus comment for 3 years. Music is the guy. And so he had a great New Year's Day today. Music did, because the Nussmeier, I think, did everything that you wanted to see from a first-time starter for the LSU offense today.
Music, do me a favor. Leave a comment. How are you feeling after all of these years of commenting Nussbus? We finally get it. And boy goes off for 400. I want to know how you're feeling, Music. And are you secretly like Garrett Nussmeier's mom or something like that? You gotta give us some inside scoop on that. But yeah, anyways, Wednesday, Harlan Berry makes his decision during the All-American game. What is that? Under Armour All-American game. By the way, Dominic McKinley was one of the top 5 performers yesterday at the Under Armour practice. And then Saturday, January 6th, is that Saturday? It sounds like a Saturday to me. January 6th, the big one. Bryce Underwood makes his decision. And Mike, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling really good about LSU and both those guys.
Let me see how good I feel about it, because I'm not changing where I was at, but I put in a prediction back on November 12th for him that it would be LSU with a high confidence level, and I've not backed off of that.
Berry or Underwood?
For both. For Harlan Berry, when did I do his?
Probably
I did
longer
Harlan
than
Berry's
that.
prediction. I put in a high confidence level of LSU on June 16th for Harlan Berry.
I talked to Harlan Berry's dad. People were telling me that Frank Wilson was Harlan Berry Jr.'s like godfather. I did check with them on that. He's not his godfather, but they played football together in high school. They went to high school together, very close. So if Frank screws this one up, I mean, man, it's not. They don't come much easier than that. And that being said, yeah, November 12th. I think I did my story on Bryce Underwood like November 10th. So since that phone call I had with Bryce Underwood's dad, I've been overwhelmingly confident that LSU lands Bryce Underwood. So great time to get started on TigerBait.com premium recruiting board. If you want to follow recruiting, this could be among the biggest 7-day stretches we've seen from LSU, among it for sure. I don't know if it's the biggest. Mike could speak to that way better than I could, but it's up there.
Class of 25 is going to be absolutely special. Josh Forbes is
what a troll.
Raining on the parade a little bit. He thinks Underwood will pick Bama.
He took an OV there last week. He took an official visit.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Great weekend in Tampa for the Saints and Tigers, says Scott. Absolutely.
Stadium looked a little more packed for that Saints game.
Michael Sterling disagrees with the title of our show that Nussmeier Shine. He says, I'm not sure Shines is the right description. He is who we thought he was, a gunslinger with a rocket arm who makes bad decisions. He throws 10-yard passes the same way he throws 40 yards.
I disagree with that wholeheartedly. Let me throw a couple reasons why. Number one, your first start ever and you throw for 400 yards and you lead in a 98-yard drive to win the game with zero help from your defense, right? And you didn't have much of a running game to help you out either. Number two, you're talking about the gunslinger rocket arm mentality, throws 10 yards the same way he throws 40. You realize most of his plays today. The thing is that we were looking for him having more of a consistent passing game. And he did throw a lot of passes under 10 yards. In fact, early in the game, I remember getting a little griping because I'm like, this guy's not looking downfield at all. But that's something he improved dramatically on because, yeah, when he was young, every play was 4th and 30 for him. He was looking for the fences on every single throw. He was very decisive when he went downfield today. He was very selective. And for the most part, he threw well. He wasn't perfect, but he completed 70% of his passes, by the way. Look, Michael, I appreciate you watching. I just disagree with that wholeheartedly. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, I disagree. This is college football. I know he's been in the program for 3 years. Big stage, a lot of pressure. Been waiting his turn. You know, he's been dreaming about this and playing the scenarios out in his head for 36 months. He gets the opportunity, and I think he performed very, very well. And by the way, that Wisconsin defense is not a bad defense.
Yeah, top 35.
Yeah.
I want to put this one up.
Go ahead.
If LSU can fix the defense, it will be okay in 2024. Our DBs are not at the level we need now. Let me just tell you right off the bat. Ding, 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 winner, winner, chicken dinner. You're 100% right, Scott. The offense, the way it's looking and the guys they're bringing back, that offensive line and Nussmeier, what he just showed me, they're going to be fine, okay? And what Joe Sloan showed us today, it's going to be just hunky-dory on offense. They're going to be good. Will they be number one in the country like they were this year? Probably not. But do I expect them to have a top 25 offense? Absolutely. If that's a man, you should have put that if in the caps lock, my friend, because that's a massive if. If this defense is what it was today, they ain't gonna be all right. They're gonna lose a lot of football games, but we'll see if they can fix it and get it to be top 25 quality. They'll win some games next year. They'll be pretty good.
All right, well, let's hear from Kenny.
Kenny Haynes is a proud 1989 graduate of LSU Law School with a passion for justice. Kenny stands out as the only lawyer in the state, board certified in both appellate practice and family law. Drawing from 34 years of trial experience, Kenny has navigated the most complex aspects of real people's lives. If you need help in Northwest Louisiana with a family issue, legal issue, or a highly skilled trial attorney, call Kenny 318-222-2100. And speaking of winning, Kenny would like to recognize our 2023 national champions and congratulate coaches Kim Mulkey and Jay Johnson. Go Tigers!
And of course, Kenny is the unofficial official lawyer of TigerBait.com, and he reserves the right to think most clearly for a paying client. And we thank Kenny for sponsoring our post game every football season. And I know he's looking forward to the start of baseball. As he's obviously a big LSU baseball guy as well. All right, let's get to some more comments. Juwan Johnson. Hold on, here it is. Juwan Johnson, Mr. Football Louisiana. Yes, he is, and he earned it. No, he won't. Will Brian Thomas come back? If so, watch out. I don't.
There's just
know.
no way. There's just no way,
Yeah,
and I don't think
he should.
They'll be fine without him. They'll be just fine. I think Chris Hilton's going to step up in a big way with the Nussmeier connection. Kyron Lacey, hopefully he works on some catching drills this offseason, but you know what kind of dynamic athlete he is. They're going to have like 12 receivers next year. They'll be fine. Mike, I put out a poll today. If you had to grade Brian Kelly's first 2 seasons at LSU, mind you, he inherited a team that went 11-12 the previous 2 years. He goes 20-7, Heisman winner, SEC West champ. What grade would you give him?
I'd have to give him an A. Yeah, there's been some aggravation, but with what he had inherited and some smoke and mirrors to get there and get each of those wins, to me, it really is pretty darn good. But that doesn't mean that, the thing about it is maybe you can get a 9-3 here or there, but 10 wins is probably the minimum expectation at LSU. And I do think that there's some going forward. There still is, what have we done the last 2 decades? You look at LSU, you look at recruiting, you look at the upcoming schedule, you look at who you've got at home, who you've got away, and typically you'll say, you know what, I really like the way things set up for LSU, and not next year, but the year after, or you like the way it looks next year, LSU. And so now that grows with a 12-team playoff, but do I think the odds are high for LSU to be in the 12-team playoff with what they've got? Yeah, to me, I don't. There's some big concerns there, but we don't know. I think Wingo and everybody's coming back. He told me a few weeks ago he was going to announce it on the 2nd, so we'll see tomorrow. But even then, we still don't know what they might do in the second portal period. And then what changes are going to be made to the staff. But when you look at that football schedule, there is a ton of landmines with a lot of teams that are excited about their outlook. Inwood, Oklahoma, go to A&M. Hugh Freeze and his team think they should be better. USC, UCLA, Alabama at home, go to the Swamp. I mean, there's a lot of landmines there to get to where you need to be. And with Oklahoma and Texas now coming in the league, how many 10-2 teams might you have in the league next year? And what might that Oklahoma game at home at the end of the season mean for where LSU ends up landing one-loss record-wise? There's just to me, this year 3, and look, every year is pivotal, but to me, this is probably a real one of the more pivotal. If BK were to finish out his entire 10-year contract, I think this 3rd year is going to be one of the pivot points to the BK era. It's going to be one of the pivotal junctures in time of the whole thing.
I Man, I just think it's okay. I think it's going to be a bit of a down year next year, and that's okay. You know, you're bringing guys into the fold. We'll see. I think you're looking at like 8-4 or something like that. But again, so much work before we get that. If we talk about the grade so far, I had over 1,500 people vote already. B was the highest grade. 62% people going B. 32% saying A. I tend to go A minus is what I'm thinking. Like hadn't been perfect, but my God, this was the biggest rebuild job in my lifetime I've ever seen, and that includes Nick Saban's rebuild job when he got handed from DiNardo. It was a bigger rebuild job.
And
than
when
that.
you look at what he inherited, and then didn't lose anybody from Orgeron's who he had on his commitment list, the way he's kept. When you look at who's hit the transfer portal out of LSU, now we're waiting to see what Lance Hurd's going to do.
That would be the biggest loss I think yet, right? Maybe
Yeah,
Walker Howard was a bigger loss.
Yeah, but for the most part, look at what he's done. Look at the lack of opt-outs for this bowl game.
Yeah. Retention is something I really harp on. I think that retention at LSU, you're going to bring in talent at LSU. I think, guess what? Brian Kelly's bringing in top 10 classes. Les Miles brought in top 10 classes. Ed Ogeron brought in top 10 classes. By the way, on 3, LSU's a top 5 class right now. They're number 4 on the on 3 ranking. So I think you're going to bring in talent. I think the real keys to success at LSU is always going to be talent retention. And I think
Jay Wells, I don't know.
That.
Jay Wells says 8-4 is an insane prediction. Is it high or is it low, Jay?
Yeah, I feel like that's very moderate.
Is it insane because it's too high or is it too low?
Yeah, I really need some clarification because I'm going like middle ground. Like I feel like that's the consensus at this point.
Well, you want to mention polls. I put up one about an hour ago before we went live on the front page of TigerBait. So LSU fans go vote on that. And the poll is, will Matt House be back as LSU's defensive coordinator in 2024? Yes or no? And
I got
93% right now say no.
Yeah, I was saying I got it pulled up. 93% say no.
Yeah.
I bet you if you said, do you want Matt House to be back next year, it would be even lower.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to add on our way out?
Nah, guys, look, I'll be live tomorrow with Zach Nagy. We'll be talking a lot about LSU recruiting moving forward, predictions for next year, and, you know, just a lot of good stuff going on. We'll be talking a heavy dose of Harlem Berry as he will be making his decision the next day. Mike, you and Buddy will be live Wednesday night. Is that right?
We will. Obviously, this is big in basketball, men's and women's. Non-conference play is over. SEC play starts. And so Brian will be at the men's game. I'll be at Missouri Thursday night for the women's game. And again, go subscribe to TigerBait. And look, by the way, a lot of subscribers are here in the chat. I noticed there's a lot of you that still have not edited or subscribed to the text alerts. That's a part of your TigerBait subscription. Be sure to go to the TigerBait message board. It walks you through it. You want to get those text alerts because I think between whatever's going to happen with coaching staff, some of the big commitments, class of 25 that we talked about earlier and more, you're going to want those text alerts so you get breaking news sent to your cell phone. So go to tigerbait.com, subscribe for that. We got a lot coming your way. That's it, guys. Thanks for being a part of the show. Hope you all have a happy new year. And thanks again for all of you guys who made 2023 a great year at tigerbait.com and the growth of TigerBait and our YouTube channel. And we'll be back with more live shows later in the week and more content. Luke Fickle is already up. His post game's up, and BK is coming in drips and drabs, but I'm going to have his post game up here within minutes as soon as we hang up here. So, all right, guys, thanks again. Good night.